This is a little bit like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire for my next guest. We're in the JSE building and their competitor is back. He managed to evade security and Nicky Newton-King's radar to get himself a seat in our studio. A couple of months ago, they received conditional approval from the Financial Services Board to start a brand new competitor stock exchange. ZAR X it is called. It's left with two other important nods. First, from the Registrar of Securities Services, and then final one from the FSB again before it goes live in September. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm talking to the man who's spearheaded the charge to rival the JSE. He joins me in camouflage at the JSE. ZAR X Chief Executive Etienne Nel. Do you feel a bit like threatened walking in here? Do they look at you as if you're enemy number one?
No, in fact, they just waved me straight through. So
I
feel it's very welcoming.
Do you like to be underestimated then?
Indeed.
They're not frightened yet. How far are you to pulling the trigger for September? Are there still a couple of regulatory loopholes to jump through, or are you through all of the regulatory loopholes?
Bruce, from a ZAR X perspective, we basically ticked all the boxes. Our next step, obviously, is now to submit a final report to the regulator for them to, obviously, then consider our final tick box exercise to the extent that we've complied with the conditions set forth in the March document that they published, and then we await to hear from them for final approval.
What sort of conditions have they been waiting for? What have you had to do in the last 6 months?
Well, basically what the condition process set out to do is, as an applicant exchange, we submitted a application and set out our environment on paper, and effectively they have then turned around and said, you have a conditional license with suspensive conditions. The suspensive conditions basically try to reconcile what we set out on paper to what we then are now implementing on the ground in real life.
So, for example, Senves, first
Yes.
customer, they've signed up, Central West Corporatie.
Yes.
They've been trading OTC for years over the counter. You could buy and sell shares that way. They're the first group, the ideal sort of candidate for you from the OTC market. So shares have been traded, they understand the game, they come onto your stock exchange. One of the things the regulators would say is if Bruce buys shares in Senves, will he get those shares and will the seller get their money? I mean, it's ensuring that those transactions are absolutely seamless.
100% right. So obviously, and we get independent third-party auditors to verify that our systems are in fact up and running. And
are you running simulations all the time?
Yes.
Are you up and running already?
Yes, we are. We've been matching, settling, and clearing trades in real time.
Okay.
So that's T0 for, to put it in a comparable terms to the JSE's now T3 model.
Now, outside our studio here, they've been sort of showing T3 and they've had the big banners, and this is settling trades within 3 days.
Yes.
You'll say you do T0, which is immediate settlement.
Real time, yes.
Okay, I mean, that's a big advance.
Bruce, it is. And I think what I'd like to maybe dwell on a bit here is the fact that yes, it's a sort of a nice headline to say, well, we're fast, but in reality, it's actually not the point. The point that we're achieving with T0 is we're dramatically reducing systemic risk. We achieve that by virtue of the fact that an investor has to pre-fund his purchasing account, and similarly, a seller has to have cleared shares in his portfolio.
And that's absolutely crucial, isn't it?
Correct.
I mean, I can't be selling shares I don't own.
100% right. Well, that's called short selling,
Yes.
which we do not allow on our exchange. And as a result, by the time a person wanting to transact in ZAR X environment gets to the matching engine, your ducks need to be in a row. And as such, the minute you hit that button, the buyer on screen is legit and he's got cash, and similarly the seller is of a similar ilk. As a result, we are able to, in that environment, settle immediately.
Why will you not allow short selling on ZAR X?
What we're trying to do is create liquidity for corporates, and we are wanting to almost do a bit of old school stock exchange where people come to our market to invest. not...
You can't make money out of that, though, surely. I mean, if you're getting long-only investors, it's going to be very nice. You get a transaction fee every time somebody buys or sells a share. The reason why stock exchanges around the world encourage active trade and encourage the buying and selling of derivatives and encourage short selling is because every transaction generates a buck.
Absolutely, it does. But what we've done is we modeled our entire solution around a financial inclusion model. So we really are driving a culture of savings and investments in South Africa, which up until now really hasn't been the case.
Which is very noble. But can you make money out of it?
Yes, we can.
How?
By virtue of the way we've structured our model, we obviously do not have any legacy systems that we depend on. We don't have any baggage in terms of large staff component, that sort of thing. So we run a very lean operation from a business perspective, and as such, we let the technology do the heavy lifting. I mean, the biggest taxi company in the world is a company called Uber, and they have 50 staff members.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't own a single taxi.
Absolutely. You don't have to own the building. You could rent. You could rent a building as long as you've got a server with your name on it. You'll be absolutely fine. You've got one client. You're promising that you will go live in September.
Yes.
Is that date set in stone?
Bruce, it's obviously entirely dependent on the regulator.
The listing, so Senvest doesn't get into have a hissy fit and then say, you know what, we'll just go to the JSE and they'll list us. You know, they're willing to give you a bit of leeway. They understand the startup nature of this.
Absolutely. Truth be told, we are completely on schedule insofar as our original timeline is concerned. So we are quite confident that you know, we'll go through the final process simply because we've met all the conditions set out in the conditional document.
Now, the market is made up of buyers and sellers. In between, there is a corporate which issues the shares. Senvest is going to issue how much equity?
That is a very good question and a very practical one. I think, if I may, just take a step back. When we say ZAR X is live in September, what does that really mean? So let's unpack that for a second to get to your question ultimately. So in the event we get our final approval, we would then obviously have to now populate our environment, because as you can appreciate, the JSE have the benefit of a pre-populated environment, and each listing merely is plug and play. So what would happen is we would then go out to the investing public and say to them, guys, please come and register on our platform and do all the FICA and all the KYC stuff through your stockbroker, which you need to trade on ZAR X. So you must trade through a stockbroker. Obviously, stockbrokers would apply to become market participants in our environment. And once that environment's populated, we then hope to have Senvest list early in October.
Okay. So have you had brokers apply to come into the environment?
Yes, we have.
What sort of percentage of the available broking community? Because the broking community is pretty big in South Africa.
Well, in fact, it's not that big. I mean,
there must be 100 brokers.
No.
No.
The broking community has actually shrunk by probably 30% over the past 5 years.
Okay.
Purely because of margin compression.
Yeah.
Capital market space is really tough. It really is. And part of our model is looking out for the broker. Our definition of a broker is slightly different to that of a JSE broker is concerned. And it does in fact cost the net wider, which is another element that would drive liquidity in the ZAR X environment. So by virtue of the fact that our market is pre-funded and settles in real time, it dramatically reduces systemic risk, which is a big driver for us. And on the back of the fact that it's pre-funded, the broker doesn't have to put up capital, unlike is the case on the JSE environment. So there are quite a few differences in terms of what we bring to the party from a stock exchange perspective.
So what percentage of registered stockbrokers then have so far approached you and said, we'd like to be part of this game?
We have probably spoken to 40% of the market.
You've spoken to them? What percentage of those have gone, we're on?
All of them.
Really?
Yes. Okay,
so they don't want to miss out the opportunity, which implies then that Senvest, your first customer, is the first of several in the pipeline.
Correct, yes.
And the others are?
Well, unfortunately, I can't disclose that. I'm under non-disclosure, but watch this space. We definitely will be coming to the market with more announcements.
Okay, so Senvest by October, all things being equal, will be listed on ZAR X. You can't create an index out of a single stock.
Correct.
So
Well, it's actually two. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's Senvest and Senvest Beleggings, which is the holding company.
Okay.
So there will actually be two listings. Yeah.
Do two companies make an index?
Well, we just doubled our market. So,
But within 12 months, will you have 5? Will you have 10 listings on ZAR X? What does it look like?
to give you a level of comfort, we have very firm commitments from 5 listings, obviously 2 of which are Senvest. Another 3 are in short succession, and we're hoping to make an announcement shortly on the other 3.
How many listings do you need for ZAR X to make sense long term?
Well, uncapped.
No, absolutely, but you got to have a minimum number within, I don't know, a period of time to say this is a model that can work. Your funders are going to look at you and say to you, hold on a second, you know, there are 5 companies listed on this thing, it's not worth doing. You know, within 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you've got to have some sort of critical mass, sure.
100%. We are looking to break even after 18 months. In fact, it's not a function of number of listings. It's a function of the liquidity percentage of the relevant shares. So obviously in a restricted market, so for example, Senvest Bell is a restricted share where only bona fide farmers are allowed to transact or invest in that company.
How do you know if I put a comb in my sock, does that count?
Well, you know, I'll break out my 2-tone shirts and...
exactly. I mean, how do you tell who's a farmer and who's not?
Well, you see, that is defined by the issuer. So we're pioneering a fairly unique concept in the world called controlled liquidity, where an issuer can come to us and say, we've got these restrictions on who can and cannot own shares in our company. So for example, if you have a hospital group and you only want the doctors, part of that group to be able to transact, well then by all means.
And what constitutes a farmer? I mean, if I get a veggie patch in my backyard versus somebody who rents a bit of land and runs 50 cattle versus somebody who's got 20,000 hectares of the Free State.
100%.
What is a farmer?
The latter.
The latter. Okay.
The truth be told is the issuer would set those rules.
If you've got an account with Senvest, you can buy shares. That's probably the easiest way of defining
Pretty much, yes. That's more or less what it boils down to.
I'm going to see if I can get through the system. I'm going to beard, 2-tone shirt and a comb in my sock. They'll never know. ZAR X Chief Executive Officer Etienne Nel, and it's exciting. October, we'll see Senvest begin to trade with more to come. More money makers, more movers and shakers next time on the show. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.